Okay, did you guess it? We have yogurt in this jar, and today we're going to learn how really easy it is to make yogurt at home for a healthier, cheaper option, and how delicious it is. I hope that you give this a try. Hi, I'm Heather, and today at Spirits Freedom Farm we are going to make our own yogurt. There are two ingredients that you need: milk and a culture. And if you buy milk at the store, you may have other ingredients added to them, thickeners and some other ingredients. So making our own is not only cheaper, but helps us to have some more assurance of what's in it. Now you'll see I have two kinds of milk here with me. This is milk, raw milk, that we get as part of our herd share. I don't know if you can see the cream line here, but it is, it's down here, about right here. This is, you cannot buy raw milk where we live. You have to get it by owning part of a herd, which we do. In order to make yogurt though, you would need to pasteurize your raw milk anyhow. So we will not be using this. I do have access to pasteurized milk. Something to keep in mind is that you do not want to use ultra pasteurized or ultra heat treated UHT milk. That has been completely killed. All of the natural bacteria, healthy bacteria that is in milk has been destroyed, as has the lactase. So when milk is pasteurized, the lactase, which helps to digest the lactose, the lactase is destroyed, which I think is, my opinion, why so many people have trouble with lactose intolerance. But this milk, you can probably see the cream line on here, right about here. This has been minimally pasteurized, so the lowest temperature that you can pasteurize milk at is 145 degrees, and that is what this has been pasteurized at for 30 minutes. You can go up to about 165 degrees and still have good milk for yogurt. Around here, it is very difficult to find pastured or organic milk that is not ultra heat treated. So I'm going with this one. It is best if you can get something that is homogenized, so that the fat has been blasted so that it will spread through. But as I said, this is non-homogenized. The cream rises to the top. So we are going to have to take the cream off the top in order to make our yogurt. The reason being that we start with a culture. This is Cultures for Health cultures that we will be using. And they send you little packets of freeze-dried culture, and it's a powder. So what happens is when the cream rises to the top, it will take the powder culture with it, and so it'll all go up into the top, and then the milk does not get cultured. So, which is not what we want. So I'm going to give this a shot here, skimming off the cream, and see if we can work with just the skim milk. And that would be the second ingredient for your yogurt, is the culture. What I have here from Cultures for Health, they have two kinds of yogurt that you can make. There's one called thermophilic and mesophilic. Thermophilic requires heat to culture, so something in the 95 to 110 degree range. The mesophilic will culture at room temperature, so 70 to 75 degrees. So if you get the thermophilic yogurt, you can get a yogurt maker, which will bring it up to temperature. Some people will use an Excalibur type dehydrator, which is a box that you can take the trays out of and still have the box with a little bit of heat. Some people will put it in their oven just with the light on, things like that. There are a few things that you can do. Some people will use a cooler with hot water or a heating pad. You just have to keep checking on it, because you don't want it to get too hot, because that will kill the culture. Another thing that you want to do is use clean containers, clean glass containers, and do not put it in the sun. The sun is sanitizing, kills microorganisms, which is what we're trying to grow here, microorganisms. So you want to take that out of the direct sunlight in order to culture. So what we're going to do is skim the cream off, and we're going to measure out 1 cup of milk. Now this cream that I'm taking off is quite thick, but we can use it to make whipped cream or butter or any number of things. We can culture it and make a sour cream if we would like. There are plenty of things to do with this, this cream, but we do not want it in our milk for the yogurt. Okay, so I've skimmed most of the cream off of the milk, and I'm going to measure about a cup in here of milk. And one of the things to keep in mind for our yogurt is that there another option for choosing yogurt cultures. You have one such as these, which are an heirloom variety, which means I can take the yogurt that I make with this and perpetuate the culture. Take a little bit of that yogurt, put a tablespoon into another cup of milk or a quarter of a cup into a quart of milk, and make more yogurt from that, and just keep continuing that same culture in perpetuity. They have others that are not, they're direct set is what they're called. So that is one packet for the yogurt, and you have to keep buying the packets to make those yogurts. This kind is mesophilic, and it is heirloom, so we can keep it going. So we're going to take the culture from here, this little bit of powder, and we will put it in here. We've got all of that in there, and mix it in really well. And that's it as far as the recipe itself goes. It's not too hard. You can cover it. Some people will just cover it with something breathable like cheesecloth or coffee filter or something. It doesn't need to be breathable. You can just put a lid on loosely. Because this is the mesophilic, it needs to be about room temperature. So if your room is a little bit cooler, you can put it up higher on top of the refrigerator where some of that warmth from the refrigerator will come up, or near the stove, again, just not in direct sunlight. So we'll come back and check on this in a few hours, 8 to 12 hours, and then we'll keep checking it every couple of hours until it is set. Okay, here we are about 18-ish hours later, and we have cultured yogurt. I'll get you in here to see how the texture has changed. Now you can let it culture for up to 48 hours, and you may not see a whole lot of change at that point, but you can put it in the refrigerator and use it for your next batch. And over time, your culture may get thicker. This one you can see is getting a little bit thick, so it's good to use. And we will put this in the refrigerator for 6 hours before we eat it, but we will save at least 1 tablespoon of this yogurt aside per cup of milk to make our next batch of yogurt. And it works just the same. We will put it in an area where it is 70 to 77 degrees and wait for 12 to 18 hours and have more yogurt. We can make up to a half a gallon of yogurt that way with those proportions, a tablespoon per cup of milk. One thing to keep in mind is that homemade yogurt is going to be a little bit thinner than store-bought yogurt. If you have thin yogurt and you want to thicken it, you can strain it if you like through a butter muslin or a very clean used t-shirt, but you can drain that out. The whey will come out and your yogurt will be thicker. You can even make yogurt cheese that way. What I have here is a drinkable yogurt. The heirloom varieties that I purchased was a sample packet. Has 4 different kinds of yogurt, from kind of thick to drinkable. And this one is a drinkable one. And they do have others. They have a thermophilic, which means it requires heat up to 110 degrees to culture. They have Greek and a Bulgarian, and those tend to be a little bit thicker also. Now, one of the things that I did, because in the winter our house is not quite 70 degrees, I I tried this out for the first time, is this plant heat mat. So we use something very similar but a larger rectangle for keeping our seed trays warm while our seeds are germinating. So this is a heat mat, seed mat, and I'll link to that for you guys. But it raised the temperature up just enough in our house. It raises the temperature, I can't remember, it was like 5 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit something, and I just kept it loosely around. It also had the added benefit of blocking any sunlight, but just enough to raise the temperature around the jar enough so that it did culture easily enough, even though our house is not quite 70 degrees. So that was a very useful thing. So if you're like us and have a cool house, you may want to try that. So I hope that you will try some yogurt. We will link you to the various Cultures for Health yogurt cultures. They even have vegan and some other cultures in there that you might like to try. And let us know if you give it a try and how it works out for you. Thank you.
Please visit the blog post linked in the video description below for more information about this video and the supplies used.